Hello students, welcome to the Introduction to Philosophy. My name is Rodney Malone and I am your instructor for the Spring 1 term of the School for Professional Studies. This course is Philosophy 1055, Section 12, and it is entirely online. This course serves as a core curriculum course for not just the traditional undergraduate program at SLU, but also for SPS. And it is my privilege to have done this at SLU for about 10 years now. I have a master's degree in philosophy from the University of Missouri St. Louis, as well as an MA from SLU in medieval history. I've taught this in the traditional undergrad program, I've taught this with SPS, and I also teach it as a dual credit course for local high schools. My other job is to teach high school kids at a charter high school in the social studies department, where I teach philosophy, world history, civics, and this semester as well, 10th grade US history. Introduction to Philosophy serves as a core curriculum requirement because it is one of the best opportunities that we have to think about some of the best ideas anyone in human history has considered. And for us, for many of us in the Western tradition, of course, this begins, as so much of our intellectual history, with the Greeks. So this course will trace, for the first 6 weeks, the best thinking from folks you've certainly heard of, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. And then for the last 2 weeks, I'll transition and give you a brief taste of what people consider modern philosophy, with the individual considered the father of modern philosophy, René Descartes. If you will consider the course calendar with me, I can not only show you what those readings are, but also can explain to you what a typical week looks like. We only have 8 weeks to study a semester's worth of deep and intense content, so we will begin promptly on January 12th and continue all the way through the beginning of March. A typical week will look something like this. When the module or the week opens on midnight Sunday for the week, you will want to plan on reading that week's texts, probably on Monday or Tuesday. For example, the first week, we will consider basic argumentation, as well as Plato's dialogue called the Euthyphro. If you study my written lectures on the module, as well as read the primary text on Monday and Tuesday, you'll be in a very good position to participate in our online discussions throughout the rest of the week. As you read, I include what I call journal reading questions to go along with that primary reading. You may submit these to me at any time during the week for 4 points. However, the due date for them is Sunday at midnight of that week. So for example, the Euthyphro reading questions are due midnight on January 18th. Starting Wednesday then, you will want to post for the first time on the first discussion board. When you do this, it will give your classmates an opportunity to dialogue with you through the rest of the week based on your initial postings. Those postings then should continue in this sequence. For the first discussion board, you should post on Wednesday, come back again Friday or early Saturday, and then post a final time Sunday. There is a second discussion board on a parallel topic this week on Euthyphro itself, which you will not need to begin until Friday. However, once you post on Friday, you will want to return back to that discussion board on Sunday. These two discussion boards are the best opportunity not only for you to learn, but also for me to understand what you as a class are understanding about the concepts and how well you are working with the material. So at the end of each week, I will use the SPS discussion board rubric to to score your 2 discussion boards out of 10 points. So in a typical week, you will be able to earn 14 points through the journal reading questions and the discussion boards. As I said, the first 6 weeks will have reading questions and discussion boards through Plato and Aristotle, and then the last 2 weeks are going to be on Descartes. There are no quizzes and there are no tests, so the only other points that we will use to measure your reading are through papers. Now you have 3 papers to write, 2 of which I consider short papers, and the third I consider a final paper. Let me explain how these work. During week 3, we will only have 1 discussion board posting so that you can begin to construct and write your own short paper. Now by short, I mean short. It's only 900 words, and it will be considering the topics that we've covered in the first 3 weeks. You will submit that to me by week 4, and I will score it using the SBS writing rubric out of 28 points. Then in week 5, you will be introduced and begin writing short paper number 2, which will then be turned in during week 6. These 2 short papers must be completed in order to write your final paper. Why? Your final paper is not going to be a new paper. It will be a substantial revision of your arguments and your philosophical writing from the first 2 papers. And it will not have its own scoring column in the grade center. Instead, the final paper score will replace the score for one of your 2 papers. So for example, let's say you did not write an excellent philosophical argumentation for short paper number 1 and you scored relatively poorly. From my feedback, you probably are going to write a better paper for short paper number 2. So what you will do during weeks 7 and 8 is reconstruct your first short paper as your final paper. It will probably be substantially revised and resubmitted. After I score your final paper, those scores will replace your earlier score. So in the end, you will only have in Grade Center 2 28-point paper scores, with the final paper replacing your poorest first paper. The reason I do this is for 2 reasons. One is I understand that no one is going to be excellent at paper and especially philosophical paper writing early on. So the more practice and the more feedback we have, the better. And the second is practical. You and I don't have a lot of time together, and much of it is not face-to-face or personal in the way that we would prefer. And so I want you to have practically the opportunity to earn the kind of grade that you want and desire out of the course. So that is how our term will go practically. If you will go to the syllabus with me, you will see a couple of other things that I'd like to point out before I sign off. The first is my contact information. My cell phone can be used for both phone calls and texts. Either is fine with me, just let me know who you are. If you email me, I try to check that email about once a day, so I typically respond in about 24 hours. The text that we use, I have already sent to you in an announcement that they are listed again, and we will use them in order. The first 2 books are for the first 2 weeks. The Republic will be weeks 3 and 4, and Aristotle will be 5 and 6, and Descartes 7 and 8. Finally, the course goals and objectives. Each week will cover each of these goals so that by the end of each week, you will have mastered one of those goals. If at any point you don't know if you can meet those goals, please let me know and I will assist you in any way I can. As always, communication is our best vehicle in these online sessions, so please reach out often whenever you can.